Are you looking for a community of women who are ready to have an open conversation about their self doubt journey, how they're showing up despite their negative self talk, all while having brunch and sipping mimosas? Then join us Saturday, November 20th at Camp Spaces from 12 to 2:30 p.m. for Slaying Self Doubt's first live event called Community and Conversations. Limited tickets are on sale now. You can head on over to my website www.feliciawallace.com. Click the events tab to get your ticket today. Hope to see you there. You're listening to the Slaying Self Doubt podcast with Coach Felicia, where we empower Black women to overcome their doubts, fears, and insecurities in order to give birth to their God given purpose. Join me and sometimes some of my friends on our journey as we remind you that you are not alone. I'm Felicia Wallace, and together we will find our fears and slay them. Hey y'all, it's your girl Coach Felicia. This is part 2 of the Obedience is My Responsibility series with Keelay Carter called Trusting God and His Word.
It is quite all right. It is quite all right. Thank y'all so much for joining us again tonight for part 2 of Obedience is My Responsibility. And I can tell y'all, Jesus has been working ever since I started this series, but we just going. First of all, let me just introduce myself. I'm gonna have Keelay introduce herself. So I am Felicia Wallace, the founder and creator of Slaying Self Doubt. Slaying Self Doubt. I'm a purpose empowerment and self doubt coach. Slaying Self Doubt is a movement to empower Black women to overcome their doubts, fears, and insecurities in order to walk into their God given purpose. Slaying Self Doubt is me. And we just be out here trying to help women find their fears and chop them up, chop them all the way up. Okay. Keelay, introduce yourself to the peoples.
Hey y'all, I am Keelay Carter, the CEO and founder of the Keelay Carter Experience. I'm also the creator of Momish and Living with Purpose. My community and platform is basically a tribe that's built to just come together and encourage and uplift one another. We motivate, we encourage, we inspire. Everything that Felicia is saying, just encouraging women and mothers to walk in their purpose and just live their life being obedient to God. So listen.
I already know, sis. I already know. Okay. This week has been, I promise you, since I started this, when I tell you Jesus has been like, oh, okay, and so this, and so this, and I'll be like, it feels like what is happening, right? Like, what's going on? But it's like when you tapped in for real, like tapped in, it is legit a whole different experience. And even last week when we talked about hearing from God, like I started, it was like it was a shift for me that happened afterwards that was really like, okay, I was clearly doing something wrong before, but now that I know that I know that I know, I gotta switch it up a little bit. So how are you feeling after last week?
So let me tell you, y'all, okay? And we keep it real and transparent on here.
Yes,
So
yes.
after last week, this week I got hit with a couple of, well, after last we did a live on Thursday.
Right, yep. Mm-hmm.
And on Friday I got hit with a couple of life blowers. And then I was like, you know what, I'm not gonna focus on them because I was headed to the mom friends as I got them. And
Yes.
so
Go ahead
and
about
so
that.
I
I'm gonna
was
say
like,
something about that, but
I'm just gonna enjoy my weekend, and we're gonna just deal with it and
yeah.
deal with it after the mom friends. So then after the mom friends, it was like I kept calling it trying to get my footing, but it was just like this happened and this happened and this happened and this happened, but it was a combination of like I know the enemy was trying to test me,
Mm,
but then God over here was still like, I'm still calling you to do some things. And so
yeah.
opportunities were coming through. One of them I shared today, but it was also like obstacles and adversity was coming my way at the same time. And I've honestly, like, this week have been like in deep prayer. That's why I was like, when we get on here, trusting God is real, because I know that the enemy is testing me, and it's just been emotionally draining. So like
Yeah.
I've shed a lot. I've shed some tears this week, and it's been like but I know what God wants me to do, and it's because I'm being obedient. He didn't
Mm-hmm.
say the test wouldn't come,
Mm.
but this is the time I need to trust Him. So
And
this is
listen,
timely.
right. And one of the things that you said that's really making me that I think that when we're having this conversation, so if you guys weren't here last week, I host a podcast called the Slant Self Doubt Podcast, and the Lord told me to do a series called "Obedience is My Responsibility." I got my notes again, y'all, because I came prepared. Okay, and so last week we defined the definition of obedience from Holloman's Illustrated Bible Dictionary is to hear God's word and act accordingly. Biblical obedience to God means to hear, trust, submit, and surrender to God and His word. So last week when we were talking about hearing from God, we gave y'all like the 5 things that you need to do to hear from Him. And so this week we talking about trust. That's why you hear that word and our eyes roll at the same time, okay? Because when you are doing this faith walk, it ain't gonna always be easy. It's not gonna always be like flowers and sunshine, and that's a misconception, right? That like if you are a believer, that life just no life is still life. Things still happen, stuff that's out of our control, but it's a way you kind of go through those things that's different. You know what I mean? Because you have a connection that's like despite those things, like you know that God still has you. So today we are talking about the next step in obedience, which is trusting God and His word. And I'm gonna roll my eyes again because
I'm telling you.
that's just what I'm gonna give y'all today. Okay. So Proverbs 3, 5, and 6 says, "Trust in the Lord with all your heart and lean not on your own understanding." It's that part right there, y'all. Okay. See that? There you go. In all your ways, submit to Him, and He will make your path straight. Okay. But it is the lean not on your own understanding. Like we just we going I'm gonna go ahead. So I want tonight we're gonna break this down 2 ways because as I was doing this and preparing for the podcast and preparing for the live, I was like, yeah, definitely I want to talk about how to trust God because I think that is very important. But I also think that sometimes, which is what you said today, right, is about these tests or these things that are happening. And the question is God asking you to trust Him? Because there's times where we go through stuff and it is a test. It may not be from the enemy. It's the test of God that like, are you truly going to trust me? Right? Are you really going to trust me? Yes, Natalie, like that's the part. Why, Lord? Why? So this first part is God asking you to trust Him. When I think about that, I think about the times where I just be like, what is this? Like, you looking like I'm asked for this. I don't even want to be here. What is going on? Like, and you just like, what is real for real life happening? And so for me, I say here are 3 ways that God may be asking you to trust Him. The first way is prompting. You feel a prompting in your spirit, right? Like it's this like nudge of like y'all ever seen in Ghost when what's the Batman name? Who was the ghost? Golly. Oh, his name was Sam in the movie. And he was trying to push that push the when he was pushing the guy when they was up in the scaffolds, his friend, and it was like he was like moving all around. Like he's like, where is that? What is that coming from? It'd be like that. You'd be like, why do I need to do that? Right. So for me, I feel like prompting is like you somewhere and you something tell you, I'm gonna say because I'm gonna say it the way we say it, right? Something told me to pay for this person in front of me. Something told me to uh go this way versus going that way. I don't know why, but I just did it. And I know for sure that plenty of times just from experience, like that's the Holy Spirit saying, I need to direct your path, but you have to trust that because we end up be like, well, no, this is actually quicker. So I'm gonna just go this way, right? So how do you know that you are being prompted to trust God, Keelay?
it's literally like you said, the nudge thing, but it's also like he leaves he leaves no other way. So
Oh,
it's like, and that's lately what I've been seeing. He leaves no other way. It's kind of like, all right, God, like there's no other way for me to do this, and I just don't understand. Like for me, leaning into my own understanding, I don't see a way out. Like I don't understand how you're gonna make this happen, or I don't
yes.
understand why you telling me to do this when I know that this ain't gonna work out. Or like if he's like you said, pay for somebody else's. If he say some pay for somebody else's food, well, God, you know I was struggling. I don't got money to pay for my own food. I'm just
I
really
barely got enough for me. You want me,
so.
or we be like, how much you think they got? Like,
I'm like, you gonna reimburse me? Like, how quick you gonna reimburse me though?
see, this is why this is the truth because people don't tell you this part. Like, people be like, I just be giving, but I'm like, I ain't there yet. I be quick to be like, okay, Jesus, so if I do this, then am I gonna get the return on my investment tonight, or is it gonna be
Listen,
tomorrow?
wait, Felicia. So that's a funny story. Like, I used to struggle when I knew I was supposed to tithe, but I
Mm-hmm.
struggled badly. Like with tithing, it was like, okay, y'all say I'm supposed to pay this before I pay everything else. Okay, guess what? Verizon and this car note, they ain't gonna say, oh, she paid her tithes first, and I'm like, y'all, like I gotta make a choice,
Yeah.
and they're like, you gotta trust God, you gotta trust God, and that was really really hard for me, even though it was biblical and people
Mm-hmm.
showed up and told their testimony about how God blessed them through tithing, and I was really like struggling, like, but
No,
I'm finally finally here now.
listen, you are not alone, okay? Because that's a because your logical self, like you're selfish, your flesh, all of that pops up, and you just be like, 10% of what? Like of all of it, or the part that I got left over? Like which part you want?
And you want the gross, or you want the net?
Right, like are we? So this is after I pay my bills, and then after I go do what I need to do for myself. At what point do you want me? You want it now, or do I gotta wait till Sunday, even though I got paid on Tuesday? Like which? How is this happening? Like what it? And you finagle. You know the thing about it is that I was the same way, and it was really about trusting, right? And that's a perfect test of at God asking you to trust him. And in the Bible, even when he talks about tithing, he say, test me. He say, try me.
Yeah.
And once I started with, for me in the very beginning, it was very much so like I let my flesh, right, dictate, was like, well, this is what I can afford right now because I'm a single parent. I need to figure this out. And I just gotta figure out how this gonna go. But once I started doing it, things started to increase, right? And then I could give more. And then I could give more. And now I'm at the point where I'm like, I don't care what I get. You gonna get this 10% because I've already seen. I believe you, right? I believe you, right? Um, so I think that is, and what you said earlier about not having a way out, right? God, he just kind of puts you in this space where it's just like there is no left or right. It's only this way, and it's always ourselves that's like, do I really have to do it this way or nah? Yes, no, this is the
Let's
way.
stay here, God, a little
Yes,
while longer.
right. So the next thing that I said, so the first thing to remember, we're talking about how the three ways that God may be asking you to trust Him, right? So the first way we say is prompting. You feel a prompting in your spirit. The second thing I said is you feel His presence. So that is like the urge to be around Him or be near Him. So Keelay, have you ever felt the urge to like be in His presence?
Oh yes. Oh yes. It that for me, and that's when they talk about that quiet place. That's
Hmm.
and I was sharing this with somebody because when people think about being in God's presence, we think about being in the physical church building, or we
Right.
think about going up to the altar and literally kneeling at the altar. But it's creating that altar in your private place that really gives you that comfortability because now you're allowing because we know that God lives within us, but now you're allowing God, you're inviting God into your presence. And
Yeah.
for me, like I tell people, in the house, I get that presence, but the most times I get it is when I'm in my car by myself because there's no distractions and I could be listening to music or I can have that quiet time and I'll hear from God. And the shower, I hear from God clearly. Like, it's like, I don't know what it is about what it is. I don't know what it is, but I can feel his presence. I can hear him talking. And that's when I know, because sometimes we shared about that last week. Like, is it me saying this to myself or is
Right.
it God? Because if it's you, God, just doing a little extra so I know it's you. But I definitely feel God's presence through different things in my life, even through my kids. Like I always share that
Yeah.
God literally teaches me lessons or moves through my children in parenthood. And I'm like, see, I was
Mm.
disciplining them, and here you go, God disciplining me through the same thing I'm disciplining them on. And so it's kind of like I love that relationship because he talks to me down to earth. He
Yeah.
talks to me through my natural life being. So I but when you get in that presence, it's an uncontrollable feeling. I ain't gonna lie.
Yeah. So one of the things that you say that it did, because it also ties. So remember, y'all, all of this ties together about being obedient. But as you're talking about that, having that presence, you have to have a relationship for him to even to be able to, so for you to know that that's exactly what you're feeling, right? Is that urge? And I've had plenty of times where I've like I, again, this I don't know what came over me, but I know for sure it was definitely the Holy Spirit that was like, you need to go to your closet and pray, or you need to turn off the radio or pray, or God is asking for your attention every time you call somebody while you're in the car. Don't nobody answer, ain't everybody busy, and then it's like, okay, God, like, and the thing about it is that I think when you're in tune with it enough, you need to be able to be at a place where for me, I feel like I've gotten to the place now where I'm like, that's the first thing I do if I'm in the car with myself. Like, Lord, do you need time with me or can I call my sister? Like, I'm like, I just want to know. Like, and sometimes it really is like, no, this is the time. And it could be just to pray, right? Or just to say what's on my mind and just kind of get it out, or, whatever the case may be. But,
And
I feel like that when you give into that urge, that means that he knows he has a direct line to you.
like you said, like sometimes he demands that attention. He demands, and I think that's what he did all last year. He was like,
Yeah.
listen, some of y'all, I need to just sit down. And so he demanded that attention last year. And so I remember the versus battle. We knew everybody was watching the versus battle. But I remember I was like in a very, very dark place around the time they did the Fred Hammond and Kirk Franklin versus battle.
Oh yeah, yeah,
And I was like, y'all, it was low key, maybe depression. I don't want to self diagnose myself, but I was just in a very, very dark space. And I was just like crying every day. And my husband would be like, what's going on? And I couldn't explain the feeling. I was like, I don't know. Like, I just don't feel like myself. But God, he needed me to go that low, unfortunately,
yeah,
when the quarantine first started, I was, oh, I got to do my wine run. Oh, we gonna stay up. We gonna have fun. We gonna do karaoke. I was doing all the family events, and the versus battle was fun. And it was just like you're missing the point of what I need you to be focused
yeah,
on time. And he had to get me down to that level where he was like, I need you to focus on me. I needed you to trust me because
yeah,
I was putting my, like you said, I was putting my trust in material things. I was putting my trust in, oh, I need to like make it fun for the kids. I need to make fun for myself, and that's not what God wanted me to do. But when that Kirk Franklin and Fred Hammond verses came up, it was so crazy to me because we seen so many people tune into that, and
hmm,
we seen our favorite artists, like the worldly artists as we call them. We seen
yeah,
movie stars. Everybody was still, and we were seeing them in the comments saying Jesus, 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 and it was like at the mention of his name, like
yeah, yeah,
he shall bow. And that's when God was just like, I'm about to shift this whole atmosphere. No matter who you are, no matter how much money you make, no matter what status you think you have, I'm about to nail every last one of y'all. And so
yeah.
he demands that attention like that. Man,
You can't fight it.
you can't fight it.
You cannot fight it. And I think that one of the reasons why I think it's so important for us to have these conversations is that there's some people who may be having those spaces or feel that and they don't know what it is, right? I remember that there was a time where I wasn't sure what that was. Like, if you grow up in church, you probably been to the altar about 27 times before it really hits you, right? Like, I can remember the first time. I can remember the first time I was like, I'm gonna go down, but I remember the very last time that I said yes, right? And I meant it with my whole heart. And I was intentional about, getting connected with him and wanting to do better for myself, right? And but I think that when you're going through that and you are really just understanding that this is real life stuff that happens, that even in the midst of, you know I wouldn't be surprised if, I know you said you didn't want to self-diagnose, but I feel like I was the same way during the pandemic. Like, there was a period of time, like, I was having bouts of depression because I was like, it was sad.
It
It
was
just, like, it all of it was sad. And when, I feel like that's when my faith and my trust was being challenged the most, because I was like, God, at first I was like, God, this can't be you. Like, that ain't, like, I'm not really sure what is going. But then I had to go back and I had to get into his word and I had to read what his word says.
yep.
And I was like, okay, so maybe this is you, because clearly there's something going on. And whatever each person is supposed to get out of this, that was what I needed to get. Same thing, what I needed to get out of it is completely different from what everybody else did. But he set same way, he set me all the way
All
down.
the way down. And it was
Oh,
like, if my people who are called by my name will humble themselves,
yes,
I'll
yes.
bring you out of this. And it was really like that humbling experience that now in 2021, like you said, the crazy things what we think is crazy, God has
Hmm.
planned this. It's like, wow, it's like God is making all these things come into fruition, but it was that obedience at the moment.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah. Um, so you guys, if you're just joining us, I am Felicia Wallace from Slang Self Doubt, and that is Keelay Carter from the Keelay Carter Experience. We are talking about obedience is my responsibility, part two, trusting God. If you missed the first one, you can go back and watch the live from last week, or you can go listen to the podcast. Either or, it's all on there. Okay. So today right now we're talking about, is God asking you to trust Him? And the three ways He may be asking you to trust Him is by prompting. You may feel a prompting on your spirit to do something. We mentioned, like, paying for somebody else's meal, or going a certain type of way, calling somebody, texting somebody. You was on my heart. That's that thing. And don't let it be somebody you ain't really talking to, right? And you be like, you ain't want me to call them. And we just bypass that whole prompting. But that's a trust factor. Are you gonna trust him with whatever he gonna do after you move? And then being in his presence, feeling the urge to be in his presence, whether you're in the car, whether you're at home, in a place where you feel like everything, you just know you need to be connected to him. And then the last part is pruning, where you feel like you in a testing season, which is what you said earlier today. Um, when I think of pruning, like, we hear, like, stuff getting taken away. It could be him removing people, and it could also be you removing things, right? And so when you're in that testing season, it may be a period of time. We talked about this last week, where I was saying that not last year, but the year before last, like, God was telling me, I need you to stop drinking. And I was just like, well, why? Like, there's nothing wrong. Like, I had left my job. I'm supposed to be celebrating, Lord. Like, why? But it really was an act of obedience. Like, it just that prompting kept coming up. Didn't no matter where I was at, dropping my kid off at school, it was like, you need to stop drinking. And I was just like, yeah, but I'm down to one glass a day, Lord. Like, what? I can't have a mimosa in the morning? Is that what you're saying? Like, is that what we doing right now? But when I did it, the clarity that I got in that season of really saying, like, no to that, or having to say no to people, or having to know to say no to opportunities, because I was doing something bigger, even though I couldn't see it at that moment. So, the first question I had was, what advice would you have someone to give someone during their pruning season? But before you answer that, I want to know, like, when you're in your pruning season, what does that feel like for you?
It feels bad sometimes.
That's the truth.
It feels exhausting. It feels draining. It feels emotional because, like we said, we'll write this long caption, but that comes way after we done made it through the struggle, or we see like a little light and we like, okay, I know God is taking me through this for some reason, and
Yeah.
like there's been things that I went through in the past that I'm just now seeing 20 something years later that
Yeah.
God took me through it. But in that moment, I'm like, bruh, like I'm crying out to you. This is what you wanted. I'm crying out to you, and I feel like you're not. I feel like you're not moving. But he wasn't moving. It wasn't. It wasn't ever my time. Like
Right. Right.
on his time. But I would be like, I feel like you're not moving fast enough. Like I'm struggling. Like I don't. I don't. And those were the times where I didn't necessarily feel his presence, and that's
Mhm.
probably because my relationship wasn't as strong as it is now. So
Yeah.
going back to the relationship being strong, but when I'm tested, I go through a whole emotional battle. It's that spiritual warfare is real. It's like,
Yeah.
listen, my human nature is very emotional. I'm upset, I'm frustrated, I'm stressed out, I'm worrying, I'm crying, I'm like trying to call everybody, and it's just like, okay, once I get through what Keelay doing, now let me let me check in and see what God doing.
Right. It's in the wrong order. We're in the completely wrong order because we want to be able to explain what's happening, right? We want to be. I need an answer. Like, why do I feel like this? I don't know what's going on. Why didn't this work? Why didn't that work? And you're right. It's not until after it happens that you like, oh,
Oh, okay.
okay. I see why you did that. Yep. Yep. I can totally see why that had to happen, right? So, and it's a difficult thing, right? Because when you're in it, you just want to be out of it. Like you're just like, okay, well, how? Because I've been in that pruning season where it feels like it is nonstop. Boom, a thing after thing after thing after thing,
Telling you.
and even in those prudencies, like for me, it happened right before I was supposed. The last one that it happens often, but the one that almost took me out was right before I left my job, and I felt like so many things were happening at the same time, and it kept feeling like it was only me. I was the only person being affected by every single thing that was happening. At the same time, I'm trying to be obedient. That was the thing, that it was just like, I'm just trying to do what you want me to do, and you just gonna keep you're just gonna leave me out here like this, like keep catching these uppercuts, like can somebody, can anybody protect me? Anybody gonna come down here and just
Listen,
stand in front?
can,
They
can
gonna
I
stand
get
in front of
a
this?
preacher's wife or something?
Yeah. Nobody. You just gonna keep letting that happen. And it wasn't until afterwards that I realized, okay, he was building my character. He was building my integrity. He was building values in me that I said I had, but it was also a test, right? Was I gonna break under pressure? And I didn't. And so it for me. Once I realized it again afterwards, you don't see it while you're in it, but after the fact, I was just like, oh yeah, that'll never happen again. Not ever. You
And it's sometimes those tests, because I remember going through a test over and over and over and over, and it was forgiveness to this one person. And mom was like, Keelay, she's your test. And I was like, well, I need to hurry up and pass this test because I understand how God is sending her to test my patience. And I would continue to tell my mom was like, you just need to pray. You need to ask God what it is He needs you to do. But that's your test. And it wasn't necessarily her as a person. But I
yeah.
know God was using that situation and that relationship to test me and, like you said, build character in me and build whatever He needed to build in me. And that's when you talk about like sometimes he uses a relationship that may not be good for us, but he wants us to get something out of each of those
Yes.
relationships. And even though we may have to separate ourselves from that person, everything that we go through, God uses.
Yeah.
Everything.
Absolutely.
All things
It,
work together
all
for
of
his
it.
good. All things, the
All
things that we
things.
think are bad, the things that we think are hard, all things work together for our good. But it's
All things.
it's trusting him, but it's kind of like, good God.
Right.
Can you just skip me to the next test?
Right, yeah. Like, can this not be my go? Can somebody else go now? Like, what is happening?
Okay.
And I think the other part is that yeah, she said I be needing the Lord to give that
I'm
battle to
telling
somebody else. And I think the other one of the things you said about the, which I think we all probably struggle with, that forgiveness test. Um, it's one of those things where you feel like I've learned that God will keep giving you the same tests in a different way too. It will give you the same test in a different way. It will look like something else until, because you ain't slick. Like, don't think you slick by saying, well, Lord, I forgive her.
oh
It
no,
is what it
ain't no
is,
cheat,
right?
ain't no cheating on
No,
this
you
test.
can't. You ain't cheating on his stuff. It ain't no way around it, because it's gonna come up a different type of way, right? We think that we call it forgiveness, right? Because we don't see the person.
But
We
he
ain't
knows
dealt with
our
the
heart.
person.
He knows our heart. I can
Yeah, he
say
knows.
it all day, but
Listen, we all are currently, if we all being honest, we all are currently struggling in that area of forgiveness, okay? Because the reality is that it's our flesh. Like, when somebody wrongs you, or you feel wronged, or something happens that you just cannot, like, your flesh wants answers, like today, right? And
it's
we want to,
that's exactly what it is. And like literally, so you probably seen the post today of the panel I'm supposed to speak on.
yes, congratulations, sis.
But here's the thing, I'm like, God, I haven't even healed from that completely. So I understand that you want to use me, but like, I'm like, I don't want to be doing the ugly crowd on the internet. Like, I feel like I know my story is not just for me, but like literally, it's kind of like I'm still healing from that. So when the real Natalia, Michelle, we all are currently struggling with it some way. Like, forgiveness is very, very deep. Like you said, when somebody
Yeah,
hurts you, and especially when it's somebody that you want to love you or you love them, it's a very deep feeling. And so it is like, you know what, God, I'm gonna be obedient, but
mm-hmm.
it's very hard for me to do this because I'm still struggling with that forgiveness. I'm still struggling with healing it. I'm still struggling because it, like just last week, it was my biological father's birthday. His birthday is the day before Jackson's, and it was just like, I ain't calling him.
Yeah,
And I kept trying to check myself, and I asked my husband, like, was I wrong? Am I wrong? And then it hurts.
yeah,
It hurts because it's kind of like, I want to move on. Like you said, we said our mouth, like, I'm not thinking about him. I
yeah,
forgive him, but it's kind of like that hurt is real. It cuts deep. And so
yeah.
when God is like, oh, I want to use you in this area, it's kind of like, well, let me heal from it completely first because.
And I would just tell you what the Holy Spirit just told me, that is part of your healing, right? Because a lot of times we want to heal in private, right? We want to heal, or we don't want to talk about it or deal with it until we feel like we're comfortable with it. But the thing about it is that it's just like this journey of slaying self doubt. I wanted to wait until I wanted to wait till my self doubt was slayed, and the Lord was like, "Yeah, that's not how this works, sis. This is a part of your healing. So when you show up, the thing is that you're helping somebody else in their healing by being vulnerable, because for far too long, especially in our communities, we just keep it to ourselves, right? And we just, I'm gonna deal with it on my end, and I'm gonna, make sure that I'm good. And the thing about it, the thing is that you have a choice, right? And so you are choosing to do this differently, right? And so I would just encourage you to think about it that way. Like, this is a part of my healing, and I have the opportunity to help somebody else with their healing, because there's somebody else who's probably like, it's a wrap. I don't even want to think about it, whatever have you. But it's still there. And we just have to be, you got to be honest about that.
Oh, y'all.
I know.
I had to
That
do
was a
that.
derailment, but the Lord knows, okay? The Holy Spirit knows when something needs to be said and something needs to be brought up. But that was what He told me, like, this is your healing. That's exactly what it is. And once you said yes, let me be very clear to y'all. When you say yes to God, you say yes to everything, not just the stuff you want to do. It be the stuff you don't even want no parts of. Like, I didn't agree to that, but He's going to use every single bit of you for His glory. And you just said it. It's all for His good. And when you get to the other side, you will be like, oh, okay, I see why I had to do that at that moment.
At that moment.
It just it. Listen, I've been there way too many times to be like, you again, like you want me to. Oh, okay, then
Ciao.
this is where we at. It is. So what? Oh, so what advice would you give someone during their pruning season?
Truly just to pray. And I know that's like a generic answer, but to truly pray and pray with intention.
Yeah,
I know a lot of us, we pray, and some of us, we may say the same prayer over and over again, or some of us, we may pray for, as we call it, selfish prayers. You know, some people are
yeah,
praying for materialistic things because maybe that's what they're in need of at that moment. Maybe that's what they're wanting at that moment. But truly being intentional in praying for the things that you want God to do in your life. And that's what I had to learn. Like, okay, God, the other stuff will come, but like
yeah,
I need you to make sure this is a testimony in itself. The me and Felicia linking up was a testimony in itself because I've been
yes,
praying that same prayer since the beginning of this year, 2021. I've been praying, Lord, align me with the people that you want me to align with, connect me with the people that you want me to connect with. Lord, send me the people that you need me to impact. I've been saying that them same lines all year long in my prayers.
yes,
And the way that he's aligning the people, and not tell everybody, when I say that, it's not about connection as in networking or
yeah,
adding
yeah,
or what they can do for me. It's about this. Like this, you can't, your purpose is connected to somebody else, but
right,
all the time God is not gonna want you to serve by yourself. It's like, okay, Felicia has this, she's already been doing this, so I'm gonna connect you with her, and then I want y'all to do this. So but we get it. I didn't even get the vision. Felicia hit me up, and I was just like, oh Lord, me? Like, okay, but I'm gonna say yes. But it's just so crazy. So pray with intention. um be intentional in being still so that you can hear from God. And it may come in different manners for everybody. God doesn't speak to all of us the same. It's just like when we speak to our kids. One kid you gotta yell at, one I gotta yell at. Jackson, I don't have to yell at. I can just,
you can
talk
look at
back.
them and they know.
So God talks to us the same. So if he gets to yelling at you, I don't know what to tell you. Okay. So
It's not my
but
business.
be intentional in the being still and hearing and being open to hear from him. I think we talked about that last week.
Yeah,
Being open to hear from him. So making that space that he can come in and you'll actually hear from him. And then what we all talking about, obedience. Being
yeah,
obedient through the test, because the tests are gonna come. They're gonna come. But being obedient through the test makes all the difference. And it's going to hurt.
yes.
It's going to look. I just had to suck that. You know how when you was about to get a whooping in your throat, I was
Right, and you get
like,
that little joint right.
you about to have me crying on the internet, and then I had to
But you
suck a
know
bit.
what? The
But
thing about it is that, and listen, I done boohoo cried plenty of times, okay? Because I just like if it come up, it just Lord, this was gonna be. I didn't. It is what it is. But I think that yes, being specific and intentional with your prayers, and hold on tight. That's what I'm. That's what that would be part of my advice is hold on tight because everything that you go through God is going. We said it plenty of times. He's going to use it for your good. You may not see it right now, but hold on. And when He is removing and deleting and pruning and picking away things about you, about people around you, do not fight it. You in the beginning, you're gonna be like, nope, hold on, I want to hold on to that. Well, nope, I want that too. No, wait, no, that no,
But
I don't.
that's my friend.
Listen, you just gotta let it go, and we talked. It's hard. Don't get me wrong, it is hard, and because it happens often.
Yeah.
It ain't a one. This ain't a one time thing. You ain't gonna get a one time. Every time you level up, there's going to have to be things about you that's going to have to be removed. And that is how the thing about it is that when we talk about whether or not he can trust you, he can't give you nothing if you're gonna hold on to the stuff he don't want you to have. He can't give you nothing, or he can't move you forward if you're not willing to be used. And in order for you to be willing to be used, like we said, you got to be open to it, and you have to know that there's going to be some things that are going to happen to you in order for him to fully trust you with the assignment. Before God could give me slaying self-doubt and trust me, 100% with it, I'm quite sure, I don't know exactly now what all the tests were, but I'm pretty sure I went through some stuff before I got here, before he was like, okay, you have proved yourself worthy, right? Here you go. Here's this thing. And so the next level up will come once I'm obedient in what he's already given me. He's not gonna give me nothing else. So when you're specific, for me, I always say, God, show me me. Show me me. This ain't about nobody else. Whatever it is that I need to change, whatever it is that I need to work on, that's what I need you to show me. And your will be done, not mine. That part where we read on this paper that said, lean not onto your own understanding. I don't want none of that. Like, I just have to trust you with my whole heart. As hard as it is,
Listen,
I just got to do that.
let your will be done.
Let your will
Let
be
me
done.
decrease while you increase. Okay, it's a whole word, and it was
It's a, yes.
girl was Sarah Jakes Roberts just did some sermon I was listening to, and she was like, sometimes you gotta let go of your why for God's will, because sometimes your why
Yes.
God's will don't match up. And I was like, good Lord.
I heard that sermon as well, because sometimes we get so attached to the reason why we think we're doing something, right? Like we think we're doing it for this, and he like, that's not why I sent you here. This is not what is happening, and you need to be clear about what it is. But when you hold it on to your why, you can't even see it, and then that's why you're doing this. And I've been in this space where that when on your phone sometimes it's loading,
Yep.
and that joint just going in a circle. You just over here going in circles like I'm not getting nothing's coming up. I'm tapping the phone. Hello, is anything happening?
Jackson trying to be a part of
Listen, this is hey, man, hey, okay. We just talked about three ways that God may be asking you to trust Him. You feel a prompting in your spirit, the presence, which is an urge to be in His presence, or to, and then a pruning, a testing season where He is removing stuff, He is taking you through something, and you is just like, okay, so that was that. And then how do you trust Him? And I would say this is a struggling part for us all, right? Because this is the part, trusting God. And the reason why is that I believe that, for me anyway, it has always been the things that I legit can't see an outcome. Like, I can't, there's no visual for me. I have no vision. I have no foresight. I don't even know how this is going to work. And you want me just to trust you? Like, well, what's going to happen? Like, and especially when it's things of like, it's just like certain things. I can't explain it. It's not easy stuff. It's not hard stuff. It's just, if you know, you know. That's all I'm going to say. If you know, you know. So, one of the ways that I feel like that so these are the three steps to trust God. So the first thing is to remember, right? To remember what He has already done. And I think I heard something earlier or somebody else. And this is all of the crazy part about all of this, y'all, is that this series came up and I was just like, well, Lord, why you want, I don't know how to talk about obedience. Like, I'm over here being disobedient on a daily. How you want me?
that part.
How you want me to do it? And I'm barely, but everything that has come up for me, I'm talking about, I'm saying so many things, has been about obedience. If it's not podcasts, if it's not sermons, if it's not messages, if it's not like social media, like everybody is on this thing. And I just keep saying, like, okay, God, I see why. Because this is the part that we're missing. It is the obedience. And when you are not obedient, it just doesn't happen. So one of the things that when you're being obedient and you have to trust him, you have to remember what he's already done. So how do you remind yourself of God's track record?
Listen, the track record is real because like that trust is very so like if you're with in a relationship with someone or a friendship, whatever, and you're like, okay, every time I call them, they don't answer or they don't come through. So I'm not gonna ask them again. So I don't trust them.
Right.
I don't trust them to do certain things. But God has literally showed up over and over and over and over and over again. Like we talked about it last week. Like there's plenty of times I was just out here wilding and
Yeah.
he still kept me. There's just going back to my childhood, I shared my story about my parents, and it's just like God saw fit for my grandparents to raise my sister and I could have ended up in foster care. I could have ended up a kid in the street. I could have ended up homeless. I could have ended up anywhere. But God saw fit for me to have that life worth living.
Yeah.
And it's like God has kept me, and He's kept me, and He saved me, and He's kept me, and He saved me, and He's kept me, and He saved me. No matter what I do, like you said, I'll be out here being disobedient, and God just keep looking out, like just
Keep
looking out.
looking out.
That track record is real. So when you say like remembering, you remember the times that He brought you through. You remember the time He provided when you didn't have nothing. You
Yep.
remember the times where you should have been on the news, dead and gone, but He
Yes.
for a reason. So like that track record is real, and so that is literally how I trust God, because it's like, okay, God, you didn't prove yourself. You proved yourself now. I guess
Yeah.
I can trust you then.
You be like, oh, okay, then I
Okay.
see, I see,
Solid.
and right, exactly, and I think that is an important part of remembering. Like, you have to remember, because there are times when we're in the situation, we forget, right? Because then now you asking for something else. We're asking for another thing. We're asking for more, right? And sometimes we're asking for the same type of deliverance or the same type of answer, but God's already shown us that He's faithful, right? Even in my devotional this morning, um, it was talking about actually I read this evening, but it was talking about when I think it was the children of Israel, and He showed them the promised land, and they were able to see what was coming. And so then when they were going through the Red Sea and He parted it, all of that is like they went because they knew, they remembered what He had already shown them. So it's His faithfulness that keeps you moving. It's His faithfulness that keeps you reminding you, like, okay, I remember 10 years ago when I didn't know how I was going to get out of this situation. And I was just like, what are we doing here? And you were like, trust me, right? Like I shared on a podcast that when my oldest son's father and we broke up, it was like, for me, it was like, oh, I want my family. I want all of these things. I didn't want to be a statistic. I didn't want to be a disappointment. I didn't want, all these different things. And I distinctly remember God saying, trust me. Now, full disclosure, during that time, me and Jesus was beefing, okay? Because I was like, Slim, you are all knowing. And you couldn't have showed me that this was going to happen. You couldn't have showed me that this is where I was going to be at. Like, at that point, when I tell y'all, I was so mad. I was so mad. Like, I intentionally didn't listen to worship music, didn't go to church. Like, I was like, we
Oh,
broke up.
oh yeah.
Okay, we broke up. Well, I broke up with him. He didn't break up with me, but
My own
I
breakup
was.
too.
Listen, I told God, I was like, I'm done with you. I'll be back when I'm ready. That was kind of what it was. But I remember the day that I wasn't in a place of like praying. I wasn't, because I wasn't talking to him. I literally wasn't. And I think I was folding clothes, and I heard as clear as day, trust me. And I was just like, no. Off the break, I was like, "No, I'm good," because I did that and I'm here. Hello. And then it was again, trust me. And I just said, okay. And when I tell you, like, slowly but surely, it was like I just had to put one foot in front of the other. This thing, this, and it was, again, it was the obedience of changing things about me, right? Because I had made that situation less about me and more about the situation, and I left God out of it, right? But when I say, my son's 13 now, 13 years later, like, I know why that had to happen. I wouldn't be here sitting on this thing with y'all if that did not happen, right? If I hadn't been in that space and had gone through what I went through, I wouldn't be here. I wouldn't have learned the lessons that I needed to learn about my character, about trust, about forgiveness, which I went through 87 million thousand times. Okay. I would not have learned the things that I needed to learn in that season to get me here. Right. And so for me, when I have a struggle of like his track, like I'll be like, I got to think, I take myself back to that place. Cause in that moment, that was when I felt like, oh, he's fluke.
Yeah.
Like I was like, me and God was beefing, but I was like, he showed up every month when I had to pay my rent and care and bills and all that. He kept food in my mouth. He did all the things.
Listen.
In a time where I could see nothing.
Nothing.
Could see nothing. So for me, that is one of the things that I remind myself in a time where I am struggling. I'm like, he got me out of that. And I legit I couldn't see a way. So clearly he saw fit. Like you said, he saw fit.
He saw fit. He needed us to still be here.
Yeah. He needed me to still be here. He was like, you can't quit me. He wouldn't let me quit him. I was trying, y'all. Like, for real. I was trying on like a weekly basis. Like, I'm good, Slim. um uh, so this is, we are at the 3 steps to trust God, how to trust God. So the first thing is to remember his track record, right? The second thing is to review his word. We even talked about this last week, right? What does his word say? What is it? What part of his word are you standing on when you are in a space where you have to trust him? So Keelay, do you have any scriptures or stories in the Bible that you turn to in your time of having to trust him and you don't really want to?
Listen, so mine is the typical Jeremiah 29:11, because I think that wraps it all up. For I know that plans that I have for you, plans to prosper you, and
Yes.
it's like that's it. He knows the plan. It's not my plan. And we just talked about the scripture in Psalms, um, trust in the Lord with all your heart and
Yeah.
not into your understanding. And it's just like, okay, God, but like even when you know those scriptures, you have, like you said, you have to review it over and over and over again, because you have to remind yourself of those words. And when you just look at people in the Bible that went through way worse, you look at when he told Abraham to leave his whole family. Like, you want me to leave my whole family? Like, why would I leave my whole family? Like,
Right.
and he wanted Moses to go, tell Pharaoh whatever he wanted to tell him. And Moses was like, why me? Like, I stutter. Why would you
Yeah.
ever want me to talk and have it and do this whole speech thing when I can't talk that well? And he's like,
Right.
that's not what I asked you. This is what I told you to do.
Yeah.
It's just multiple stories in the Bible. You got Sarah, who was like 90 years old. It's like, God gonna make a way. It may not be when you want it, but he gonna make a way. You want
That's fact.
that baby. But it's just so many times in the Bible that he shows up and shows out, that's why it's so good to just get into his word and review those stories, review those scriptures, and speak that stuff into your spirit. Because when you're going through that test, or you may not want it at that in the beginning of the test. Like I said, I go through my little human nature sometimes and just be like, I'm emotional right now.
Yeah.
But when you're going through that stuff, you definitely want to remind yourself and review that word. So definitely,
Yeah.
that's what I stand on in everything.
Yeah, and I would say for me, my the one that I have been standing on recently, and probably like the last 2 years, is Judges 6:14. Go with the strength you have, I am sending you. And what that reminds me of is like even during that time, that was the story of Gideon, and the fact that same thing, the angel came and Gideon was like, "Who you talking to? You talking to
Yep.
me? Not I'm." I'm not little old me for real. He's like, I'm not the mighty one. I'm not sure who you talking about. Like he was just like, who sent you? What's going? And even through that, he tested God, or like show me again. And it always reminds me that it's okay to question. It's okay to ask questions of God. It is okay for that. But ultimately, you have to go with the strength you have. And he, even despite him feeling like he was not worthy, God showed him, like, no, I've called you. And so for me, in those moments, especially now, in these moments of like trusting him with the business and, like, God, are you really going to show up the way you said you was? I have to say to myself, Felicia, go with the strength you have.
Yeah.
I am sending you. Like, he is sending you. This is your assignment. This is what you have to do. And for me, that just gives me an extra little oomph to be like, okay, let's go. Like, when
and
we going to do this.
And even when you feel like you don't have the strength, that's when his power, and he wants you to depend on his strength. Like, yes. I'm not asking you to go with your strength. I'm asking you to go with my strength and my
Facts.
power. So it's crazy, and you just see the people in the Bible, which we talked about last week, not wanting to be perfect. Like a lot of us, like me, I'm like, well, God, let me finish healing from it first before. But it's like, no, like God used the craziest people. He used prostitutes. He used killers. He used so many people in the Bible, and so it's like, listen, just come to him, and he gonna use you regardless, no matter where you are in your life. So it don't have to be perfect.
Yeah, you're right. It does not have to be perfect. And I think that once we're able to let that part go, I feel like it would be easier for us to really be able to just like lean into whatever our gifts are when we realize just show up. Like that's all he's actually. When we talk about obedience, he's just saying show up as you are. He don't want you to be nobody else, because ultimately we talked about this last week. Your blessing is your blessing. My blessing is my blessing. But if we are just remaining obedient and we're doing what we're supposed to do, he will make it all right. He will.
He will.
Okay, y'all. He will. So the last one, which is this is the one I struggle with the most, y'all. That's why I had to pause. Okay. I had to pause. Okay. So we're talking about how to trust God. So the first thing is to remember his track record, remember what he's already done. The second thing is to review his word and what his word is, because his word is everlasting. It is living. It is proof of what he's already done. So you can read that and remind yourself of him. And then the last thing is to release, which is you gotta let Jesus take the wheel. Okay, so in order for you to trust him, y'all, you gotta trust him, which means you got to take your hands off of it. And the reason why I had to pause there is because control is an issue that most of us have, whether we want to admit it or not. That is where faith comes in, right? Because you have to release control in order for trust to work. And if you do not do that, there's no other way. There literally is no other way. If you still have control over the situation of what it is that you're praying for, what you're asking, or you're trying to control it, then God is not in control. Yeah. So then it's not even real. So Keelay, what does releasing control look like to you?
Oh man, that was hard for me too, because like you said, we don't want to let that control go. It's like, all right, God, I'm trusting you, but I'm just going like have the GPS over here, in case we gotta make a turn somewhere. but it's very hard. Like you think about those typical trust exercises where they say, oh, fall back and the person will catch you. Like that's literally, oh, I need to literally fall and let God catch me every time.
Yeah.
And when they put the blindfolds on you and you just walking through whatever you walk through, you can't see nothing. That's how God wants us to be. Sometimes we're not going to be able to see his vision. His ways are not our ways. So we're not going to understand everything that he wants us to go through or wants us to see or wants to take us through. But the relinquishing that control that release is difficult. It is very difficult, especially when you have your own personal vision. And so like, this is what I'm seeing, God. And so I'm gonna email this person because they know. And God's like, you think they know more than me? You think they know better than me? I said what I said.
I said what I
I
said, okay? And he mean it, okay? And the thing about it is that this is when you at a place where you could be honest about where you are. It is so much for because I can laugh about it now
yeah.
because the thing about it is that when you fighting it, like I don't know why things ain't happening. I know why it's not happening. It's because I got my hands on it. And the thing about it is that being honest with myself and also because God, we talked about this earlier, God knows your heart. You ain't keeping nothing from him. So he know you don't trust him. So you out here faking like you do. No, you don't. And so when you don't trust him, that's how it shows up. And even when you say something about the exercises, we trust that even more because you would think you go do a team building joint with your job or whatever. You was like, now these people ain't gonna just let me hit the ground. I know they're not gonna do that, right? If you can trust them to catch you, if you can trust them to hold you up and not embarrass you, you can absolutely trust God to do exactly what he said he's gonna do and to not do the same thing.
And do the same
But
thing. It's
you
hard.
you
It's
have to
hard.
let it go. It is hard and you have to just let it go. You have to let it go, let him do his work. And like you say, it's a cliche, it's a song, let go and let God. But I feel I have enough experience in truly letting him handle something and
Yeah.
watching it work out and it being it and him showing up in the way he's supposed to versus me trying to do it myself frustrated because it ain't working out the way it's supposed to work out and it's because you're not doing it. So
Mm-mm.
I don't have an answer for that, y'all, because it's still clearly it's still something I'm struggling with. I don't, I'm just gonna tell you, you should. We all should just
Yes.
let
Yes.
go. We all should just let go and just really try to just allow him and try with little stuff, just little stuff. Try, and then, but if we look at all of these things and reviewing his track record, we know all the times that we know the thing about it is that all of this is y'all. Even when we're talking about being obedient and what it truly means, y'all, we already know the answer. It's just about doing it.
It's about doing it, and it's about, again, like we talked about last week, the personal relationship and knowing him for yourself.
Yes.
Because like my track record don't look like Felicia's track record, so it's
No.
kind of like I can't be looking at Felicia's track record and be like, well, God did it. Now you can say that if God did it for them, I know He can do it for me. But
Yeah.
that personalization of your story and your track record of God, what God has done in your life, is what you can lean on and be like, I know God brought
Yeah.
me out of this, like. And so
Yeah.
it's a different trust level than just trusting Him from someone else's story.
Yeah, because you don't know their story. You don't know what they've been through. And a lot of people
Exactly.
they want the highlights, but they don't want the struggle because you don't know what people had to go through to get to that place, right? To
Sure.
be able to have a story to tell, right? And just like when even in you sharing about your relationship with your dad and being able to share your story, there may be people who feel like, oh, I can't wait to be in a place where I'm able to talk on the stage and say something. But it's like, you don't know my struggle. You don't know the struggle I'm going to have even having to open my mouth on that day, right? But God anyway, right? And
For God anyway.
I, but God anyway. But you are right. We just have to have a relationship with Him, and just we just got to be obedient, y'all. That's
That's
where we at. That is.
that's it.
That's, I think that this may be. I don't know. It might not be the hardest one. This was close. The first one seemed pretty easy. This is. It seems like as we gonna go up in this, it's just gonna get. It's a challenge because that's what He gonna do. So today, guys, thank y'all again for being with us. So we talked about trusting God and His Word. I'm Felicia Wallace from Slaying Self Doubt. Keelay Carter from the Keelay Carter Experience, and we broke this down in two ways: is God asking you to trust Him, and how to trust God. For the first way, here are three ways that God may be asking you to trust Him. You may be feeling a prompting. You may feel like you need to be in His presence, and you're in a pruning season. So that is Him trying to get you to trust Him with whatever it is that's coming. And we just gonna say,
Look, Y'all
You
lift up,
just got.
y'all lift up prayers of mine. I'm going through a pruning season this week.
Oh yeah. I'm going through. I've been in the pruning season for. That's why this is so like when he gave this to me, I was like, for real though, like is that what you're gonna do? And then you just gonna show me all the things that. Oh okay. He's funny. He real funny. Okay. And then the 3 steps to trust God is to remember what He's already done in your life. Review what His Word says, and then to release control and just let Jesus take the wheel in real life. And that's it. That legit is it. That's what He gave me. That's what He told me to share. I hope that something resonated with y'all. We have 2 more things, which is submitting and surrendering. And I already know that's going to stretch me. I already know, because those are things that trusting was hard. Like, oh Jesus! But we're gonna do it because this is a part of being obedient, right? This is a part of me being obedient and doing the series. That's all.
Is that surrendering? That's surrendering word.
Yeah, that's the last one, right? So I just want to let y'all know surrendering is the last one. But if you are watching the replay and you found any value in this or something resonated with y'all, please share it with people. Make sure you're following me. Make sure you're following Keelay. We both are just out here being obedient. That's legit what we're doing. And so just thank y'all for joining us tonight.
Thank you.
All right, y'all, that's all for this week. Thanks for listening, and don't forget to share, subscribe, rate, and review. Remember to head over to Facebook and Instagram and follow me at Slaying Self-Doubt. Oh, wait, don't forget, go to my YouTube channel and watch this episode, and remember to press the subscribe button. Until next week, see ya.